It doesn't matter what kind of e-commerce brand you're building, you still need a rock-solid way to grow and scale your company like clockwork. Welcome to Seven Figures and Beyond, an e-commerce marketing podcast for D2C brand owners and marketers looking for best practices that include proven strategies and tactics to grow an e-commerce brand to 7 figures and beyond. Bringing 18 plus years of marketing experience as an e-commerce brand owner and e-commerce agency owner, please welcome your host, Greg Shuey.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Seven Figures and Beyond e-commerce marketing podcast. I am your host, Greg Shuey. I created this podcast to help D2C business owners and marketers who are stuck and are trying to find a way to grow their businesses. Today, my guest is Saunder Schroeder. Saunder has been in the game for a long time. He's worked for companies like Disruptive Advertising, which is a pretty big marketing agency working mostly with e-commerce businesses, as well as with companies like Triplewell. If you're in the e-commerce space, you've probably heard of Triplewell. So he's got some really good experience. Right now, he oversees a new revenue channel and he's working on building the agency accelerator and self-serve program for Fermat. So how you say Fermat, right?
Fermat, yep, you got it.
Fermat. I keep wanting to call it Fermat. Fermat. If you're not familiar with Fermat, they help brands like yours create curated, dynamic shopping experiences that lead to improved customer experience, engagement, and conversion. So if you haven't heard of them, or even if you have and want to check them out, they are at fermatcommerce.com, and then I will make sure to include that link in the show notes. Today, we are going to talk about how to maximize your average order value without hurting your conversion rates. I know a lot of brands are concerned about that. Being able to push average order value up, is that going to end up tanking my conversion rate and so forth? So it's going to be a really fun discussion. Saunder, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Greg. Excited to jump into AOV and talk all things D2C.
Attaboy. All right. So before we dive in, I've already given a little bit of history, but can you give us some background on you, talk about your personal story and how you've gotten to where you are today?
Yeah, totally. I would say I grew up in a very much like entrepreneur family. So my dad started a lot of businesses and that got me, emerged pretty quickly. In order to spend time with my dad, I found myself at our pizza restaurant at, 8 years old and on, and bussing dishes and, doing all of that and eventually kind of doing everything. And unfortunately, he got caught up in the 2001 collapse. And so, from that point on, when I was 15, I started mowing lawns and essentially had to pay for everything. So that spirit kind of, stuck with me for a while. In college, I started an e-commerce company. So that was 15 years ago now. Pretty
wow,
getting old, pretty crazy. And so that was great. We really unlocked a lot of like influencer marketing then, fashion bloggers, stuff like that, getting on fab.com. And then, from there, I just always felt attracted to like early stage companies. And so I went to another local agency to us in Utah called 97th Floor and, helped grow that in the early days. And then another D2C company I was the CMO at called Group Deals and helped grow that. And then, like you mentioned earlier, eventually went to Disruptive, but I've just always found myself attracted to kind of that 0 to 1. That's kind of what I'm doing at Fermat with new revenue streams, is getting those off the ground, kind of from that 0 to 1, 1 to 2 stage.
Awesome. That's amazing. Love that you came up in an entrepreneurial family and that you kind of caught that bug. I think of my daughter as you were kind of walking through that story. She works with me here. She does a lot of content production for us. She's in high school, but she wants to be in the medical field, but I can see her asking questions and like really trying to learn things to see how can this apply to me as I go into the medical field. Like she wants to be a surgeon, right? So how do I use the internet to be able to help build a book of business at some point in time? And that's a year that, that's a long ways away. She's 17, but the whole world will be run by AI by then. So, who knows? Who knows? But I love that. So that's awesome. Well, you ready to jump in?
Yeah, let's jump on in.
All right. Well, let's just start like at the very beginning. Super simple.
Yeah.
So when I talk to a lot of brands who want to work with us, typically they are overly obsessed with one, new customer acquisition, and then two, how do they improve those acquisition costs? There aren't a ton of discussions happening around how do I grow my average order value? How do I grow my customer lifetime value? It's just, I need new customers. I need them as cheap as I can. So trying to make that more of like a household topic, right? Like something that they should be obsessing about from day one. Like from your point of view, why should they care about AOV as much or maybe even more than they should be caring about customer acquisition costs?
Yeah. Great question. I mean, I think if we just look even at the acquisition landscape, it has changed like so drastically.
Sure.
Like think 5, 6, 7 years ago when we were doing Facebook ads, you had a lot more control into audiences, right? Into your targeting. And creative kind of actually took a back seat, which was interesting then. I felt like landing pages and that post-click experience was a little bit more prominent, just because you did have so many targeting options. So now, with some of those targeting options being removed and, back to your AI comment, we're kind of just like trusting the algorithm. We kind of need to figure out how to optimize that post-click experience because acquisition costs actually aren't like going down, right? If anything, they continue to increase.
Yep.
And so you almost need to find a way to increase that AOV. Now, one way, the AOV conversation is typically tied into bundles, offers, and kind of like aligning that creative messaging. And so, I think as you look at it through that lens, you can actually decrease your NCPA or new customer acquisition costs when you do find the right offers or the right bundles and those things. So interesting enough, it's like almost as you start to increase your AOV, your NCPA costs actually do come down. So that's how I tend to think about it.
Interesting. So your ideal customer aligned with the right offer, aligned with the right bundle, you can not only get more money out of them, but bring down your costs. I mean, that makes perfect sense. So you guys work with a lot of brands. So what are some of the most effective ways that you've seen brands increase their average order value without hurting their conversion rates? Like that's a really big concern from brand owners when I talk to them.
Yeah. And I would even add, brand owners are also worried about impacting like contribution margin as well.
Sure. Yep.
Right. And so it's like, how do you do that? Some of the best ways that we see brands do this is definitely going to be through bundles. Now, historically, how you do bundles in Shopify is you have to almost, create a new product in Shopify, take out inventory, apply it there. With Vermont, we actually create virtual bundles. So it's a quick little hack to just quickly test and see what works. And then you can figure out more of a long-term strategy. And so bundles are great. So like one thing that I love to do, if you actually go into Shopify, go to your analytics and reports, there is a items bought together report. And so I recommend everyone just starts there. Export that. And then you can see like, what are your top products that are bought together? And the cool thing as well that, I've looked at hundreds of millions of e-commerce data just based on, Triple L, Disruptive, Vermont.
Yeah.
When you do see an increase to AOV, there's a very, very strong parallel to increasing LTV. And so, So I think that's where, you might sacrifice a little contribution margin on the front end, but the LTV of, whether that's them getting more experience with different products, kind of, I guess, having that variety, the LTV tends to make up for it. Now, business owners obviously hate when we as marketers focus on LTV, so I won't go too much on that. But bundles seem to be that. And then, obviously there are also offers that you can do. So like, I think with offers, it's important to align business objectives as well. So, maybe you're a brand, you've been sitting on this inventory for a while, maybe the shelf life's coming up, you need to liquidate it. That is a great way to do like a gift with purchase type offer. And so So you kind of align, you might be sacrificing contribution margin again, but you're maximizing cash flow and, not having to, burn or get rid of that product, in the future.
Yeah, interesting. When I think of bundles, I think of, the most recent one is like their nomadic t-shirts. If you see ads for nomadic, right? It's like buy a white one and a black one and get the blue one for free. Buy two and get one for free, right? But based on a couple of your comments, it sounds like bundling is so much more than that, than buying a 3-pack of t-shirts, right? And so is that what you think of when you talk about bundling? Is like people buy a shirt and a pair of joggers together 90% of the time, and that's how we're going to build a bundle?
Yeah, I think, definitely. I would say yes to both, right? Like, I think there are going to be obvious ones where, hey, someone who buys they like a white shirt, a black shirt, they'll want a blue shirt as well. Great. That's a great bundle. You'll have some kind of discount with that or something in that bundle, So I think that's great. But I'm thinking more, let's go maybe a level deeper there and just see, is there the shirt and the jogger, right? Or is it, it could even be something like simple, like, a shirt and maybe some sunscreen. Obviously every client's different, but, just seeing like what that looks like. And so, in that example where the price difference going to be massive, that could be like a good like gift with purchase, or something like that versus like actually bundling it together. But I would say, download that report and it tends to open a lot of people's eyes. I just think as business owners, as marketers, we tend to make assumptions when we've been in the business for a while about what customers are buying. And so I think it's kind of like a pattern breakup when you can actually look at the data.
Cool. Okay. So next, now that we've kind of got this idea of bundles out of the way, can you break down for us what makes a high converting bundle? Like I mentioned before, you've worked with a ton of brands. Like, what do the best have in common when they're building out their bundles?
Yeah, I would say the one thing that always seems to be true is that it does contain a hero product or, like a tripwire product. So it's always a product that, most customers are going to buy from you. So you'll definitely include that. And then, outside of that, I mean, there are so many different variables. I wish there was like a one size fits all approach to bundles. But I think that's just where you got to really dive into that data and see. I'm trying to think of, like, let me give like one example that was interesting. So a brand I worked with early on at Vermont, they're kind of like the stance for dress socks. So what we did for them is we actually took all of their blue socks and put them in a blue bundle. And then we took all of their gray socks and put them in a gray bundle and did the same with green and purple. We were able to, just doing that, just creating those bundles, we were able to double their conversion rate, double their AOV, and we cut the CPA in half. And so like that's
with a simple bundle.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just that. Yeah. Doing that. So, and that, the data actually might tell you that, might not tell you that.
Sure. Right? Yeah.
It's just more like, hey, our customers who buy blue socks probably will buy more blue socks in the future. So what if we gave them more upfront, And so instead of them buying 1 or 2 pairs at, $60, what if we gave them 5 pairs at $120, Right. And so, so that was kind of like the thinking, with that one. So, I think there's also like, I talked a lot about the data, but I think there's kind of like some of that obvious, let's just see what happens if we bundle the same colors together, same with like a swimsuit. Like a lot of brands don't bundle the tops and the bottoms together. And so that's like a very obvious unlock of like, okay, what if you just created a bundle where the user can choose their, their top size and then their bottom size type of thing.
Yeah. So, okay. So on the flip side, like where are the biggest mistakes that you see that brands make when they're trying to grow their average order value or building bundles? These have to be more glaringly obvious, right?
I mean, I wish they were like, I wish they were. I would say, the ones that come top of mind are brands will naturally want to push like their highest priced product.
Okay.
to like increase AOV.
Yeah.
And so, and that isn't always like, the best way to do it. Now, obviously as marketers, let's test, analyze, and optimize from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so highest product. And then I would just say like discounts. And so, discounts are obviously like a double-edged sword where if you get a bunch of discount customers, then they're only going, repeat buy from you during discount season.
Only when there's a promo and they're going to eat up all your margin. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And so, that once again, it's kind of that double-edged sword. Now, everyone likes a good deal. So I'm not saying don't include some kind of discount, but, going back to like that sock bundle, we priced it like high enough, right? We didn't just do like 2 pairs and then discount it at 30%.
Right.
We did 5 pairs and then discounted it at let me try to think. I think it was like 15%, so it wasn't like a crazy discount that we were giving there. And so, I just say be a little cautious of like the discounts, highest price. And then, I'd say the other thing is, brands will also just throw like everything at their customers. And so it just creates like a lot of decision fatigue, like on a landing page, and you see, this isn't, to talk bad on any other e-commerce SaaS platforms, but you just see like, all of these post-sell, apps that are, upselling after the purchase and more and more and more, it just feels like we kind of get in that more and more and more cycle. Whereas we've all heard like less is more, in most cases. So those would be like the 3 big things.
So let me ask you this, because you mentioned it just a few minutes ago. You said that a good a good bundle includes your hero product. So do you ever find that it makes sense to not push your hero product in a bundle? Or is that one of those things that could potentially hurt?
I definitely think it depends on the brand, right? Like if a lot of your brand equity is in that hero product and you want to keep that price premium, then that's probably where I wouldn't push like a bundle with my hero product. And then, like I said earlier, I would just also test it and just see what happens.
Spin up a bunch of tests and see what sticks, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's maybe where like a gift with purchase doesn't actually take away from like your hero product as well. So if you did do a hero product and wanted to maybe, dip your toe in the water, that's where like a gift with purchase type offer could be good because you're not actually discounting it, but you might throw in, maybe an accessory that goes with that hero product or something like that. So, but it totally can go like all things in marketing can go both ways.
Yep. Awesome. Okay. So how important is timing and placement when it comes to introducing the upsells, cross sales, and should brands push these early, mid, or late funnel?
Ooh, that is such a good question. It's a hard one. As you will tell, I do not have strong opinions on a lot of things when it comes to marketing. I do appreciate sometimes some of those strong opinions and people dying on the sword on social media. I would say, end of the day, to me, it's important to have a system and like a methodology. Yeah. And so I think it is good to test. Now, I think if you're like an emerging and, trying to find like that product market fit, I think testing bundles and being a little bit more aggressive on the front end is probably important for people to try and use your product. So I have a CPG brand selling like a functional energy drink. We came out with like a pre-workout powder that you add to it. And so for us, we decided to like bundle those very aggressively for new customers. And so that made a lot of sense for us and where I was willing to be more aggressive because we are a newer brand. But once again, it goes back to like my discount customers, we are being very aggressive. And some of that is we believe in our product and we are a consumable. So the LTV does make sense for us to do that. I think, where like a beauty brand can seem to get away with like upsells at every stage of the funnel. So whether that's someone first coming to the page, if that's, being more aggressive at the add to cart level of like, hey, customers also bought XYZ product with this, it makes sense because, if you're, women are typically replacing what they're already using. And so if you can match something close to what matches that behavior, it works well. And then even, post sell, right? Like same kind of like philosophy. And so beauty can seem to get away with it everywhere. I feel like apparel probably has a harder time, just overall.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. When I think of apparel, I think, my first one goes to like Built Basics, right? I don't know if you buy from Built, but when you put things in the shopping cart, they're like, oh, $40 more until your free pair of boxer shorts or your free wet bag, right? And like, I don't necessarily consider that like an offer, even though it kind of is an offer, but it's a way to be able to grow average order value and get people kind of over that bump. And so I see that kind of mindset. And I'm sure it works because I do it, right? Like I just what's one more shirt? And then, truly, I don't see a lot of cross-sell upsells post-purchase. I really don't anymore, right? It's like,
it's not as common.
It's not as common. Like you just hit the thank you page and then you typically get a post-purchase survey from the no commerce guys. And maybe, you see some related products from Disco. You're seeing those more and more often, but I don't know. I usually, bundles up front, maybe something to try to get to free shipping or some kind of a gift. Right. And I see them enough that I've got to believe that those are working.
Yeah. I mean, I think they definitely are. Funny. You bring up that bill. It reminded me back in the day of bodybuilding.com. It was like they had their whole like gift library when you were just like, so as a poor college student, I was like, oh yeah, I need to get that free shaker. So we go find like a $2 sample or something, to get over the hump. But yeah, I agree with that. You're not seeing as much post sell. And I think that's where, and I think email marketing is also a lot more sophisticated now.
Sure.
And so I think brands realize they can, almost have that post sell after the fact. So
they'll get them through an email or a text message at some point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And we don't even recommend this very much anymore with like your meta ads, but like, you should be going after post sell all through email. Very rarely should you be putting advertising budget into trying to recapture old customers unless for some reason your email isn't getting the job done. And so lean heavily into the email and the SMS side of things for that post sell for sure.
Yeah. Yep. 100% agree. Yep. You've owned those customers. No use paying Zuck anymore.
And when you do, your ROAS looks amazing, and then your expectations are shot, right? Oh my gosh, getting off topic. I mean, that's one of the funniest things is when a prospect comes and they're like, my ROAS is a 12. It's like, actually, you're more like a 1.5 when we pull out, your repeat purchasers. So it's a good time.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, let's talk personalization because I feel like personalization is probably a big key to this. So how does personalization either through AI or segment-based funnels like really impact the success rate of upsells and higher order purchases?
Yeah, great question. I'm going to ask you a question off of
that. Boy.
So
okay.
I think everyone has a little bit different definition of personalization. Can you give me like, what maybe a use case or like how you think about personalization?
For me, it is my answer skewed because I've been really leaning into a lot of AI right now, like building out tools to even further personalize. If you ask most people, I think it's, I get an email with some products that people like me purchased before and that I might be interested in, right? Yeah. I think personalization today and into the future is very much one-to-one, and these people legit know me and they know what I'm going to buy next versus people like you bought this, right? If I've bought 8 shirts from Built in the last year, there's a pretty good chance that I'm going to buy the new color that comes out, right? Versus, you may want a polo or you may want our joggers because other people buy these things. Sure, that's kind of personalized, but I feel like it's truly going to be the one-to-one type marketing that people crave, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's super helpful. Yeah, I think the future is very exciting. And also I remember, when I was at Group Deals, we had a list of, I think we had like 5 million customers on that. And so
Yeah.
we were, and we would send out 2 sends a day of like our marketplace deals.
Whoa.
So, yeah, it was wild. So the first email was like what we predicted to be top sellers. The afternoon one was what actually ended up being top sellers and like hadn't sold out yet.
Yeah.
But I remember then we were meeting, with SendGrid and a few other startups of like personalization and like trying to create that one-to-one. And that was, that was 10 years ago. And I feel like we still haven't like fully unlocked that. Now I think how you probably do that is, I think it's going to be someone like a Shopify and Amazon, right? I think Amazon actually, you see it quite a bit more.
For sure.
Because of their data. And so I think a Shopify or, whoever has the most data is going to unlock that probably the best. I think that's why Shopify is pushing Shop app so much.
Right.
But tying it back to that landing page experience, I think AI will fill into that, but it's going to you're going to need to connect to like a Shopify API to really maximize it. So kind of how we think about personalization now is more, I would say more like brand demographic pages or like customer segment pages, where we have, we talked to a brand this week. They sell, it's like athletic tape, but it has like cooling to it. All of their customers though have been like teenage gymnasts. And so like their entire website, is all like gymnasts. And so it's like, so when like a football player, D1 player goes there, all they're seeing are like, 15-year-old gymnasts. So they're not like going to like resonate with that. And so we more see it as right now it's like, hey, let's create like, the football player page. And, obviously all that content will be like football. And then let's create, a pickleball page. And maybe that's, people my age and older, that are on that page, and so that, I think that's more how personalization right now is still kind of in that like segmentation era. I think that next leap though will probably happen in the next few years.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it just depends on who gives like the keys to the kingdom because it's all the data.
Yeah. And like that example you gave, that gets even harder, right? Because you can't market and sell to a 15-year-old gymnast, right? You're marketing to the parent. And so how on earth do you profile the parent to say, this is what's next for maybe the parent has a football player, right? You just don't know. And so it's going to be fascinating to watch this all unfold.
It really is. It really is. The future is wild. Yeah. And who knows where like ChatGPT. Yeah.
We're not even going to go there. Oh, that's funny. Okay, well, let's talk about the future as we kind of wrap this up. So, and I know we don't have crystal balls, but as you think out 1 year, 2 years, like how do you see average order value optimization evolving? Do you think tactics are going to need to change as customer expectations shift? Like, what are you thinking and what are you saying?
Yeah, I mean, definitely what we're seeing is a lot of what we've talked about so far is definitely going to be those bundles, offers, the buy more, save more, like those types of things, I think, play well during, what does Amazon call their summer holiday, Prime Day?
Prime Day. I was going to say Amazon Deals Day, but no, that's not it.
Prime Day. Yeah. So, it's like, you'll probably still have like the Prime Day, the Black Friday, like those things, but it's like, what is like more sustainable? And so, yeah, I think as far as like the immediate future, like right now that we can see, it really is around like what is going to get customers to almost like de-risk. And I think, not to get like too much into the macro, but I think, dollars are a little harder to come by now as well. So I think like 100%. Customers, they need to feel like they're getting some kind of like value. So, to me, it's like you've got to provide value. And then I think your brand also has to like mean something. It is, something that I'm believing more and more in because you just see, I don't know, the barrier to entry to start a brand now is like very low. And so
it's so low.
Yeah. And which is awesome. But yeah, it's hard to like stand out from like all the, all the noise. And so
Yep.
I think there's a lot of components that kind of go back, kind of like to the Ogilvy like methodologies a little bit. Like I think advertising needs to get, I don't want to say advertising's become cheap, but I feel like it's just so much of like the same thing. And like, let's test like 1,000 creatives this month, and it's
Right.
like, what if you just like tested like 10 things that like represent your brand and your product and like were more meaningful, and you stood for something. So I'll get off my pedestal, but it's like, I think that's like some of what this AI revolution will bring is more back to that like brand. Cause I think
so too.
change.
Yeah. I put a post up a couple of weeks ago on LinkedIn that like, I'm genuinely scared that brands are just going to go all in on AI and they're going to use AI for everything. They're creative, they're copy. And when everyone's using the same tool and similar inputs, we're going to get a lot of boring crap out of it. I think the brands that are going to crush it are the ones who, sure, use some AI to help with ideation, but are also bringing like human stories, different elements, brand stories, what you stand for as a company, and weave that in and through to where it truly is unique and it stands out. I think that's going to be like crystal clear. I also think, I've thought this for a long time. I feel like brands right now need to really focus in on kind of that hero. And they need to build everything around the hero product and get hyper focused on that. Because like you said, it's super easy. Like I could go make a shirt like built. So many people have done it. I mean, the Nomadic guys did it. It's what I'm wearing right now. Like you can buy any kind of variation of it. And, you've got to have that ideal customer. You've got to have that hero product. You've got to have your story. You've got to have your creative and everything dialed in. And I think those that do that are going to be the ones that win over the next couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, that's honestly the bet I'm making with my brand is exactly that. Like, because I've consulted with the largest like D2C brands, over the last decade. And it's like, I don't know. I don't want to like come off as like, I'm not like superior to them. I just see that a lot of them are all doing like the same things.
Yeah.
And they are avoiding like that brand and that hero and like those things. And so, yeah, I think betting on like original artwork and like, like, I don't know, just like having, what is it? Gumption? Is that the word?
Yeah.
Having gumption, and like what you're doing, that uniqueness. I just, and like authenticity. I feel like I'm going to hate that word a year from now, but like it's getting overused, but
it's true. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm right there with you. That's what I'm trying to say.
There you go, man. I love it. Cool. Well, Saunder, thanks so much, man. I appreciate your time. I know our listeners will appreciate your time, and super grateful that you were able to come on and share some great stories and insights with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great talking some marketing, D2C, and all the good stuff.
Awesome. And to our listeners, we're going to roll a couple more episodes next week as well. So make sure that you tune in, and thank you so much for joining.